Hi everyone, Nothany Dope Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Cyhi The Prynce album, No Dope on Sundays. This is the long-awaited debut album from Atlanta rapper Cyhi The Prynce, who started making some waves in the rap industry back in 2010 with a few mixtapes and a prominent feature on Kanye's legendary My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. After being signed to Def Jam Records, Kanye quickly brought him into the good music fold. It seemed like big things were to come very soon for Cyhi at the time. However, it seemed like signing with Def Jam and teaming up with Kanye sort of put his career on the slow track. He had a regular stream of features, for sure, with a series of other artists who were relevant at the time, but news of an album just sort of seemed to totally evaporate. Eventually, Cyhi was dropped from Def Jam in 2015, which caused some drama everybody involved seemed eager to smooth over really quick. He dropped a diss track called Elephant in the Room, which afterwards he said wasn't really a diss track, although if you look at the lyrics, they're pretty aggressive and kind of get to the heart of his frustration with being signed with Def Jam, being dropped from Def Jam, not feeling like support from Kanye's side of the aisle. So things clearly were not cool, but everybody's kind of acting like things were cool all along. Like, not too long after this, Cyhi dropped a Lion single, which had the Good Music emblem on it, as if he was still with Good Music while not being with Def Jam. And of course he has the Dat Side single that teased toward this new album, which of course features Kanye West. So whatever. I don't know and totally understand all the drama surrounding this. It seems like everyone involved would much rather just kind of get along with their lives and their career instead of just letting this derail everything. So I went into this album hoping Cyhi would really come into his own on this thing. I heard a lot of ambition on two of his most recent mixtapes, Black History Project 1 and 2. The Afrocentric themes and concepts he was trying to pull together on these tapes were pretty huge, which also kind of come through on this new album over here, although overall there's more of a focus on the grimy, violent, very drug-centric content that you might catch on a lot of rap albums these days. But Cyhi is far from one-dimensional, though. On his tracks where he's rapping about gangs and dealing drugs, he openly acknowledges the moral failings of somebody who might sell hard drugs to somebody in their own community, getting them addicted, as well as the real downs and dangers of this lifestyle. It's very clear that Cyhi tries to find a balance between brute and brilliance, a lot like a Jay-Z or maybe a Pusha T. But I wouldn't say he is as flashy or as technical as those guys. He's really more of a dude that has a persistent rap to his voice, a very steady flow, and more of an ear to the streets, kind of like a Jeezy or a Jadakiss. And speaking of those guys, the 2000s seem to be a huge reference point for Cyhi and his music. Like, there are a lot of flows and beats and songs on this thing that I could see getting a very warm reception like 12 years ago. However, there are also lots of concessions on this album to the smooth, atmospheric, melodic, trap-flavored sounds of today, like with the R&B tinged 80s Baby with BJ the Chicago Kid. Then there's the really spacey Movin' Around, which features a pretty punchy trap beat, some faint hypnotic keyboards, and a very moody Schoolboy Q feature. And then you have I'm Fine, which features Travis Scott's auto-tuned vocal riffing all over the track. Then you have Lookin' for Love, which is this equally hideous and hilarious auto-tuned rap ballad where the singing is a little much. just not into that. It's a bit much. There are some sturdy rap songs on this record, without a doubt, with solid, dense verses, decent beats, but only a few cuts on this record actually managed to stand out to me on the entire thing. While Cyhi's heart is often in the right place, it's rare that this album really wows or dazzles. That's definitely the case on MURDA, which is helped out greatly by an incredible reggae flip in the instrumental, and then also New Africa, which I think is also incredibly hard-hitting and blood-pumping. The political sentiments on this track are pretty strong and kind of refreshing too. And Cyhi does have a lot to say on this album and these tracks, which is often why songs on this thing that don't even have a feature go over 4 minutes. You can tell he's really been waiting a long time to say what he's trying to say on this record. You can tell he's really been waiting a long time to make this album. And on some of these tracks, he pulls together some really compelling imagery based off of personal experience, like on the song Don't Know Why. But truth be told, Cyhi is not really that dynamic of a performer on this record. With the way that he raps, I mean, he has good fundamentals, it's steady, it's there, he's on a beat, There's nothing inherently awful about the way that he's rapping, but there's no real emotional emphasis to any one line or verse over another, at least not a great deal of the time, which causes his rapping to kind of turn into a bit of a drone. And while Cyhi does come into this project with a very strong baseline of talent, he does not come through with the gravitas that I think he needs to carry a project of this size on his shoulders, even with the incredible amount of features on this thing. His flows a lot of the time are pretty middle of the road, and despite the fact that this thing is his first album, he kind of sounds like a relic from the 2000s who's trying to keep up with the times of today. It's like he's a seasoned vet who's trying to make music for young kids, but he doesn't have like a series of classics under his belt from 15 or 20 years ago. And to kind of make up for the fact that he's not keeping up with the times, he has a bunch of trendy guests and features on this thing. The album flows like it's been focus grouped, so you have to have a song and a tone and a tune for everybody. You gotta have the love song, and you gotta have the ballad, and you gotta have the grimy song, and you gotta have the confessional personal song, and you gotta have the banger. It's just a mixed bag that doesn't really come together as a cohesive project. He seems like a good guy, and he seems like he's putting it all into this right now, but there are just too few defining characteristics for Cyhi to make him stand out in the current rap landscape. However, I know he's a fighter, and it seems like he's got a lot of experience. He's like leveled up to 75, so you don't totally want to count him out. But I feel like this album is average at best, and it's just kind of pure indifference at worst. It's not awful, but I would be lying to you if I told you it was significant and special in some kind of way. Even with his attempts on here to come through with some weird segues and interludes and beat switches. Like he's just bringing on these musical epilogues on a song to make these tracks seem less meager than they actually are. Certainly this album and Cyhi comes through with good branding, but this record does leave a lot to be desired when it comes to substance and when it comes to execution. I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Just leave a thoughtful comment in the comments if you're feeling thoughtful. Over here next to my head, we'll throw in a Pusha T review. Click on that, check that out, or click on the link to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. Forever.